this is your brain, heart, mind, body, and soul. On chaos. Don't do chaos, kids. It's very, very, very damaging. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil, and we want to do a breakdown and review of chapter 144 of 4 Nights of the which is known as cracks. Your boy was struggling with that. Golly. But we do have a hefty, defty chunk to talk about. With plot progression, with narrative progression, with scaling in places, with everything. And maybe a talk or two about Las Drogas. And I'm not talking of Dior. So let's not waste any more time and let's hop right into it. Editing me. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, Myrtle, bruh. That chaos juice got to you, huh, bucko? Look at them veins popping. He got him well, he don't got him in, oh no, he got him in the hands, he got him in the chesticles, he got him in the abdicals, he got him in the fasticles, he got him in the eyeballs, he got the veins everywhere. He's looking jacked and juicy, scrumdiddlyumptious. Golly! Looking almost as hench as Escanor did. That boy is thick! But, aside from that boy being thick, one thing I do want to immediately praise Nakaba for is his artistic design when implementing mind control. Especially non-autonomous mind control. Well, obviously, mind control is not autonomous. How do I put this? External power that is not native to the original body and was given typically against the person's will. Kind of like when swagger is used in Pokemon, where you do get that +2 to your attack. You're feeling jacked, gargantuan, and juicy. But then you also get the confusion status. And then, if you're like me, and don't care, and you click an attacking move, well, it doesn't really matter what move you hit. If you get confused, you get confused. You click anything, and then knowing your luck, when it's the final mon you have, and they just happen to survive with their second to last mon, and they hit you with swagger, sure, your attack goes up, but then you hit yourself in confusion and immediately perish. But, with that being the case, the reason I want to bring it up is the fact that we've seen Nakaba do this kind of design aesthetic before, where he beefs the character up, puts a bit of veins all over their body, and starts having them move all henched, move all devious, move against their whims. The main one that leaps to mind isn't, well, to be fair, technically there is an example from 4 Nights, but that's kind of different considering they were like literally incarnated and being actively manipulated and controlled by someone far, far away in terms of the chaos magic in Galen and Velascula. But the main idea that comes to me is, do you remember the Breath of Bless? The magical spell that Ludishel ended up using on a whole bunch of humans, especially Deathpierce, which is what led to Deathpierce's entire motivation to want to work for Camelot and annihilate all the other races, because he felt betrayed and used and manipulated by the Goddess Clan. That had very similar effects to what this chaos magic is doing, which is very, very interesting. Once again, it goes to show what is, I believe, very, very important to Arthur in his story, and why Arthur, I can't even say he has any really valid points, because all of Arthur's points are really, really dark. But why Arthur really has fallen from grace, why he really has been lost to the darkness, why he really is no more than a monster. Because he's resorting to the exact same tactics that made him hate the other races, or at least made some people who believed in what Arthur believes in now hate the other races. This is just Breath of Bless, but chaos flavored. And while, light and dark, Twilight, delicious, it still isn't good. It still is against Myrtle's will, as we'll see later on in this chapter. And I think that's great. Once again, I think one of the biggest things you can do in order to really, really sell an antagonist being despicable, diabolical, evil, is make them do things that they wouldn't like done to them. In the name of the greater good. In the name of achieving their goals. In the name of the betterment of humanity. Arthur is having Kil'jaeden do this. In the name of humanity. He's having a human, remember, a human, be manipulated to this point. Manipulated to his very body, bursting with energy, bursting with power, soaked in such a deep chaotic malice that his physical form can't even contain it. He was given power, of course. He got power. Just like Death Pierce got power. Just like Death Pierce's crew got power. Just like every single human under the effects of Breath of Blast got power. But they got consumed by a monstrous zeal. One that allowed them to sacrifice their lives willingly. Remember, it's clearly stated, if Elizabeth wasn't there, omni-healing everybody, pretty much every single human except for maybe Hauser and Gila, who were the only two, I think, or at least any of the two named characters that weren't affected by Breath of Bless, they all would have perished pretty much immediately. So Myrtle's experiencing that same effect. And what Arthur would undeniably critique the Goddess Clan for, how dare they manipulate and use humans to reach their ends, he's now doing. He's manipulating a human to reach his ends. But it's okay, right? Because he's doing it to get access to the fairy realm through Kilbegon in order to get La Droga de Or for humanity, right? So it doesn't matter that one human needs to be sacrificed. Who knows how many could be saved with La Droga de Or? That's what I love. I love when villains are hypocrites. And I love how their hypocrisy can be laid so clear. And I love how villains can delude themselves to the point where they think this is okay. I bet Arthur would put a stamp of chaos approval all over this. Because it's for the greater good. It's for humanity. But let's actually hop into the chapter itself, because I do want to talk about Arthur and hypothetical implications of the chaos juice a little bit more in a little bit. Let's actually hop into chapter 144, Cracks. We see that certain things may crack, like Tiori's neck, as Tiori hits the Myrtle. Stop! Why are you doing this? Step bro. I'm not wrong. He's technically step bro. In a way. Let me Google step bro. Let me be careful as I Google step bro though. Let me just do step brother. That sounds better than step bro. Hold on. Step brother. I got the Googler out right here. Loaded up and prepared. Aha! A son of one step parent. By relationship other than that with one's own mother or father. Maybe he doesn't count as step bro. Kind of, sort of. I mean, like, he's raised as their actual older brother. But, like, what would you... I guess he's an adopted older sibling. He's not necessarily, like, just the kid of Diane or just the kid of King. So I guess, yeah, maybe he wouldn't count as stepbro? Stepbrother, half-brother, and a stepbrother. Question, what's the difference between step-siblings and half-siblings? Answer, the important distinction lies in the ways that siblings are related. Half-siblings have one biological parent in common, while step-siblings are related only by the marriage of their parents. Oh, yeah, so he really isn't a stepbro. He's just adopted. What do you call an adopted older... Wait, hold on, what do you call an adopted older sibling? I guess just big brother, right? Like, that wouldn't necessarily be different. For those who want a technical term, you can use foster brother or adopted brother. Legally, an adopted sibling, not counting adopted parents, give the child for adoption, is a stepbrother or stepsister, as the sibling shares no common parent. A half-brother who shares... Okay, so technically... This is Korra, though. I don't have, like, an actual, like, real story. I mean, Korra is Korra, but, like, I'm not talking about the Avatar. I'm talking about, like, Quora. So I'm not sure. Because I want to make jokes, but I want to make wrong jokes. Because I saw someone comment in the spoiler discussion that technically they're not step-siblings. But according to Korra, they are step-siblings. Because Myrtle's adopted. And they know he's adopted. But he technically still is big bro. I'm going to keep making the jokes. Not really. There's not too many more opportunities in the chapter where I can make the jokes. But I'm gonna keep that one. We're going to edit that one out. We're staying on that. However, we see Myrtle genuinely tweet. Like... I wonder what, like, notably, I can't even think of a comparable scenario in, like, our world. I guess maybe when you're, like, hopped up off adrenaline, maybe you start to look like this. But, like, look at where the veins are popping out of, bro. He's got veins on his cheeks, going up by his ears, popping out his jawline. I bet if you see a vein growing across his nose, I bet if we could see his gums, they probably got veins. He got veins in the forehead. Bro is... off one, maybe an understatement. He's probably off three. And that's worrying, impressive, concerning, confusing. Insert adjective here. But I wonder why. Because notably, he'll never, even when he's like confronting his father later, he'll never be this veiny again. So I wonder what it meant, what it's really meant to mean. Maybe I'm just reading too deep into it. But if I had to theorize a reason for why he's genuinely like vein gained here, and we will not see him this vein gained throughout the rest of the chapter, is one, to imply that he is vein gained and show off more than just the black scale aura. And two, and a narrative reason, is because he's attacking someone he genuinely loves and cares for. Like, you'll see when he goes on to attack a certain someone else later on in this chapter that he may or may not be directly related to and may not have 18 years of living experience with. He's going to be a lot less veined up, and in fact, he's going to be quite lucid, or at least in terms of, like, his complexion. He will have no popping veins. He'll just be tweaking regularly. So, I wonder if that's it. It's as if, like, the initial body rebels, or the initial flesh rebels when it's forced to harm or do things it wouldn't do. Because we'll see that very likely in this very moment, Myrtle's not willing to do this. He doesn't want to do this. This isn't... Myrtle's not... He did not co-sign on this part at all. Which is an interesting aspect of Chaos Magic as a whole. The lack of consent, yet the maintenance of the original body within that lack of consent. It's an interesting idea. Once again, I'm very interested to see how Nakaba ends up tackling this further down the line. Especially if we get more characters that we actually know, or have time to learn about and actually know, drawn over into Chaos's fold for one reason or another. Of course... I, like many others, would love to see one of the knights end up falling to Chaos. And Camelot and Arthur's whole crew, a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, and by basically everyone when I say a lot of people, are assuming Lance for one reason or another, whether it be for Guinevere, whether it be for Jericho, whether it be due to some hostage situation, or something with Bond and his longevity. A lot of people, especially based on that first image we saw post time skip, where you see a certain someone who looks very familiar holding a juicy spear over the body of Bond. Like, a lot of people, myself included, are definitely seeing a Lance flip. So if that's the case, I really do hope if we at least get to see something like this to kind of confirm or deconfirm if this matters. But at the same time, of course, Lance being mind control wouldn't be as interesting as Lance, like, going over himself. And that's the same thing here. So it's a 50-50. I'd love to see more of this, because I think it's an interesting mechanic, and I think it feeds into, once again, Arthur's hypocrisy and his lack of control or really respect for human life when it doesn't immediately serve his goal. But, no, it could be interesting. However, we do get to see that Myrtle, he starts spitting, quote unquote. He hits the, oh, my neck, ow. Fun fact, did you know that there's a 30-minute live reaction over on Patreon for this very chapter that you can check out for as low as $1 a month? Or you can remember for as low as $3 a month to check out that and many other live reactions to many previous chapters of Fortnite the Apocalypse, going all the way back to like chapter 50. There's a lot of videos over there. It's good stuff. I recommend checking it out for as low as $1 a month. As low as $3 a month. I'm sorry, I don't know why. My neck actually hurts. But I hate fairies and giants. I was never either of them at all. And all of you knew the truth. But no, you were tricking me the whole time. Step bro! Myrtle. I'm just actually making it weird at this point. That's it. Last step bro joke. But with that being the case, that is an interesting angle. And once again, I do think that Chaos Magic, to some degree, does act like Breath of Bless in a similar degree. Death Pierce and the crew didn't like demons. And they did like the Goddess Clan. That was before Breath of Bless was ever implemented. They had faith. Oh, they had faith. And I do like to believe, to some degree, Myrtle's doubts and worries aren't just being like thrown away and entirely recontextualized. They're essentially being made chaotic. They're being amplified to a certain degree to the point where this is what's coming out. However, something later in the chapter does go to like, not necessarily deconfirm that idea, but make it less likely. And it seems like Myrtle may just be gaslighting, or being like actively gaslit to the point where he's not even in control of his body, which once again is a bit less interesting. The whole thing that I really liked about Myrtle as a character so far was the identity crisis and how he would tackle that identity crisis as an individual. But I'll admit this chapter later on will go to not necessarily dumb down or entirely throw away, but I'd say weaken the concept of the identity crisis into something more, I guess generic is the word. It's just mind control. We'll find out. But with that being the case, we see as Chori begs her brother to stop, Ming Ming! 2 whole mushrooms get thrown out. And notably, they bounce off of the nearby area. I think they flat out bounce off of Myrtle. And Myrtle's like, Nani no. And he... Golly. I don't know, have any of y'all played baseball before? Notably, I haven't. Well, not in years. I think, like, gym is the last time I played any variation of baseball. But, like... And also, I don't necessarily watch baseball. I find baseball actually kind of boring as a sport to watch. But, with that being the case, I've seen people throw sliders with this kind of throwing motion. Golly, Myrtle. Like, you could be a pitcher, my boy. Golly. You could at least be a baseman or something. Look at that arm. Look at the form. Look at the twist. Look at the motion. Scrumptious. I see it. I see the vision, Myrtle. I see the vision. I see something in your future. It may not be being a fairy or a giant, but it'll be something. But with it being the case, we see Myrtle go, and throw Tiori away. Tiori is thrown against the ground, in spite of the fact she can fly. And we see a certain somebody stands proud, stands tall, dares to stand strong against the mighty, majestic, mystical Myrtle himself. Those were dust shrooms, just a smokescreen. Let me cook. That's exactly what he said. But he's like, but no matter the reason for this, you are not cooking. No matter the reason for this, isn't your cherished family to you? So Nasians has shown up and stepped in, here to save his little sister, or their little sister. I'm sorry. I'm going to do my best, but I've been calling Nasians he for the better part of 3, maybe it may have been 4 years of it. Gee, how long has it been? Hold on, now I'm terrified. When did my first Four Nights review come out? Am I getting old? I'm already kind of old, so I can't even. That's a sad thing. I can't even ask if I'm getting old. When did my first? Because it started remember it started early in the year. When did my first Four Nights review come out? 3 years. It's been 3 years. I'm getting old. But with that being the case, Nasians has come to save the day, and we see that Tiori is actually just fine, which I actually am not too mad at. At first, I was a little bit annoyed, but I was like, well, realistically speaking, Tiori, pow, Belt, Sixtus has already shown his strength, and even Zana and Zillion, or especially Zana and Zillion, considering they're like giant children, they should all be abnormally strong. And while Myrtle is most certainly chaos amped here, at the end of the day, he's just a human. What could a human do to a fairy giant hybrid? Especially considering their parentage. Notably, we don't know much about like the actual aging process or how much more they could have left to grow. Or is this supposed to be Tori's full wing set? Will she never get any bigger wings? We don't know. Will Sixtus ever end up growing wings? Is he on a delayed cycle like his dad was? And his dad was like thousands of years old before he got his wings? We don't know. Is Belt done? Is he going to grow a second pair of wings? Is he going to get any taller? We don't know. Zana and Zillion, have they reached their peak growth point? We don't know. Because once again, it sounds so bad, but the biology of the royal fairies is mostly unknown. We don't know if they pop out as babies, like apparently some fairies do, or if they popped out as full-grown adults. Presumably, they're the kings, right? And the princesses, so they probably popped out fully grown. But with that being the case, we know for a fact that giant babies do start as babies, like confirmed. They don't pop out of anything. They don't have a superior deity other than Chaos itself who spawned them. But we've seen kid giants. We've seen baby giants. So the aging process and what stage of their quote-unquote evolution or growth path, at least for the Cayenne kids, is relatively unknown, I'd say. Like, we don't know if they're anywhere near close to their full size or full strength, but presumably, based on the fact that they're the child of the king of the fairies, who was strong since birth, since he popped out the tree, and the child of Diane, queen of the giants, I guess a toss like this wouldn't actually be that effective. Because, like, 1, Myrtle's probably not aiming it, and 2, yeah, she's probably just that bulky. It's crazy to think about. I think the Cayenne kids could be extremely powerful. Especially considering the other 2 hybrid children we've seen so far. Like, as much as I clown on Tristan, for all my Tristan fans out there, let me throw y'all a bone. He is strong. He is strong. He just gets in his own way a lot of the time. I can tell you he's strong, I can't necessarily lie until he doesn't get in his own way. But even base Tristan, he's nothing to sneeze at. He's got a little bit of them games behind him. I'll say that most certainly. But at the same time, Lancelot's also gained through the moon, and he's half human. Not to talk of half fairy or half giant. So I wouldn't actually be shocked if all the kids were like really, really strong. Like really, really strong. Like we've already seen Sixtus is pretty much a variation of Himothy. But like all of them, including Tiore, I wouldn't be shocked if their gains were immaculate. But that being the case, we see Nasians stand up, and we see Tiore just casually fly off the throw as she says, "Nasi, be careful with him. This isn't the normal Myrtle you're dealing with.
This isn't the average Myrtle warrior anymore. After thousands of years, I
completely switched between two different parts of a bridge. I went from canon abridged material to a movie. But with that being the case, this isn't the average Myrtle anymore. It's so not average that I have to take a sip to do his voice. So one moment."
Nasians, you.
Nasians turns and realizes, Myrtle punched Nasian so hard he hit me. Golly! You want to talk about putting your back into it? Now, notably, I'm not a proprietor of violence. I think you can resolve almost all issues with a good conversation, some talking. We're all human beings, right? We have the ability to communicate, so we might as well use the ability to communicate to facilitate conflict resolution. I think giving into violence, while innate and understandable, if you go back to our more basic instincts, it's just wild animals. Of course, you just want to, but I believe everything should be handled with conversation. However, if you are ever put in a situation where conversation is clearly not on the table, I do think it is quite important to know how to throw a slobber knocker or two. I do think you do need to know how to box to some degree. I say this as a person who does not know how to box, but has consistently been telling himself for like the past 5 years he's gonna get lessons. But that being the case, I must give extreme credit because Myrtle had perfect form on that slobber knocker, bro. Like golly, he put his full body weight into that. Nasi's wasn't even looking. He put his full body weight into that punch. And for that, I gotta respect. It's great. to hit that, like, I get it. Once again, he believes Nasian is stealing his entire life. Plus, he's being hit by cast juice. Plus, this may not actually even be Myrtle. Once again, the efficacy of how much of this is really Myrtle and how much of this is a two-headed lizard man is like very, very unclear, but this is clearly a real Myrtle emotion, and it's why until we got the whole like this is flat out just mind control, maybe kind of sort of, maybe it's an instinct implication, I don't know, we'll talk about it in a second. Myrtle looks clean and relatively calm here. Look how he does not have a single vein on him as he lands this beautiful slobber knock. And we see Tiore, once again, I hate to say it, but ever non-serious, she goes, "Myrtle, stop." Like, is it just me? Maybe I'm reading into it too much, but like, well, welcome to that guy with the pencil. We're reading into things too much. But she goes, "Myrtle, comma, stop." Ellipses. Not ellipses exclamation point, not exclamation point. She don't even, like, I'll admit, she doesn't even look that pressed. She just sweats slightly. I don't know. Like, notably, if I just randomly saw one of my homies get duffed this violently, I think I'd be screaming with a little bit more intensity. Let's just say that. But we see that Myrtle was like, "Man, stop!" and just drops a foot in her gut. Having her go, "Ah!" and dropping herself. But with that being the case, note, however, the veins come back after he made contact with Tiore, a person he doesn't actually want to harm, and then, oh, never mind. I think the theory is immediately deproved because, like, he's very specifically slobber knocking Nasians here. But with that being the case, we see that Myrtle, he starts spitting bars, and I don't mean he's rapping. He starts going,
"Everything I've built up the past 18 years, you've all too easily taken it from me. My sole aim my whole life was to win my mother and father's love, but they didn't choose me. No, they picked you Some random boy from out of nowhere. How can this be allowed?
The Myrtle voice just fell apart. I'm sorry. But, yeah, Myrtle genuinely crashed. That's the thing. I do wish this was kind of just... But it still likely is. I still think, like, I'm thinking of what happens later. And my brain is kind of like... It's in a roundabout way, like, forcing it into the idea that this could still definitely be just amped emotions. And, like, maybe his heart is feeling something different. Kind of sort of... But heart reading has kind of been established as mind reading. I'll get to it so I can stop being so vague about it. But... Myrtle genuine... Why could I not finish that word? Myrtle genuinely starts pounding Nasians. Raw. All meat, no protection. Bare knuckle. Fisting them. That's way too immature. But essentially, he beats the brakes off of Nasians. Let's just count the sound effects and the S effects. 5 here. And then at least another singular impact here. He is... Boom, boom, boom. And no, he goes deep and hard into it too. He is raw dogging Nasians. He legit straddles, rides Nasians like a bull, and just... like, notably... At least from my understanding, once again, a boy who's not a fighter and does not know much about fighting, but I believe you straddle somebody so they can't really get away, because, like, especially depending on the size difference or size relativity between you and your opponent, like, the weight required or the force required to, like, get someone off your lower pelvic area or your lap as they're holding you down or possibly hitting you, it's very difficult unless there's, like, a massive size disparity. Like, there are definitely times where someone could be, like, on top of you and just... throw them off. But, like, this is, like, a very bad leverage scenario. If you're in this position, and not for better reasons, yeah, you're getting wobble combo. So Myrtle goes absolutely bonkers here. And if under any other circumstances, he very likely would have brutalized Nasians here. But we see that Nasians is kind of just ow, ow, ow. It's kind of like when you get old enough that the pain don't really pain no more, so you're kind of just chilling. So it literally gets to the point where he's just genuinely thinking about it. He's like, it's interesting. Oh, Tori is right. He's never this agitated normally. Is this the work of an herb or poison? But the mullein pills he takes should make him mostly immune. In that case... Nasians, I don't even know how I guess maybe because Myrtle, once again, since he's putting everything into the hits, he likely turned once and, like, exposed his neck. But Nasians pierces him nice and good with a needle. Detoxification. I don't know where he got the needle from. But that is interesting. He can imbue his magic and other things. Because it's just with this needle that he immediately detoxifies Merlin. Merlin? Wrong Mer character. But... detoxifies Myrtle. And Myrtle's even bamboozled. It's like, what the? No, what did you? And we see he stumbles back as Nasians gets back up. And we see Nasians looking mighty goated. Appreciate this. Savor it. Love it. It will not lie. But we see Nasians looking mighty goated. He's like, they're like, I'm just built a little bit different. Let me just wipe this dust off my fit as I bear this beautiful porcelain skin, no damage. And we see Jory's like, "Are you okay, Nasi? Oh, was Loki hoping to be a bit more beat up? No way." And we see Nasians explain what your boy theorized. Ground Serenos is an antler that. Ground Serenos antler is a poison that greatly boosts body strength and solidity. So, that's interesting. Once again, I've mentioned this before, Nasians has not necessarily been, like, at least full chapter-wise, extensive battle relevant since the Silent, or whatever the forest was called, like the Twisted Forest arc, against Elgin, where he first used the Serenos Horn. So, me and a lot of other people were wondering, like, oh, did he just, like, run out? Or did he just not decide to use it again because of its after effects? If you remember, what happened after you use the Serenos Horn, it really drains you. Like, it essentially ironically enough, think of it like a shot of adrenaline, which is something I compared the chaos magic to with all the vein popping and stuff like that. Think of it like an extreme shot of adrenaline, where after the adrenaline fades from you, after the poison has run its course, you gotta just immediately crash afterwards. It's something like that. Or I guess it's more akin to caffeine. Maybe not adrenaline, but caffeine doesn't like bulk you up. Meanwhile, adrenaline genuinely boosts your stats by like removing any limiters. That's why you always hear those stories of like mothers weighing like 110 pounds lifting 2-ton cars off their children, because adrenaline, and the body can do that, but it usually comes at extreme cost, like breaking all your bones, like shattering your teeth, breaking your legs. Like there are definitely costs that come with it. So maybe Serenos acts similarly, but considering it genuinely boosts bodily strength, it's like adrenaline with a different type of drawback, but a similar enough drawback in the fatigue you'd feel afterwards. However, this means that Nasians does have basically unlimited Serenos horn. At least that's what this implies to me. He genuinely has unlimited, because if it's a poison, Nasians can replicate it on command, and I assume that's what he did here. He probably ended up using all the ground Serenos he actually got from the Serenos way back when, back in the Demon Village arc with Ardbeg, which takes place even before the Forest arc where he fought Elgin. So that's crazy. That's crazy. That essentially means he can give any character a massive buff as long as he comes into contact with them quick enough. At least that's how I see it. Because with Serenos horn, he could just throw the dust out on somebody, and then they're going to get massively amped, which is crazy. But we see that Myrtle falls to his knees. He just starts howling it all up, everywhere. Still tweaking, veins still popping, and he's breathing heavy. And we see that Nasian's like, perfect. That should cancel out the effect of the Mullen pill. Of the Mullen plus La Droga that put him in this excited state. So, Nasians brings up something interesting, and something that I think is true. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, I haven't done a full comprehensive reread of part 1 yet. I'm trying to do that. I need to find time to do that so I can do like a proper review of part 1 of the manga. But, with that being the case, I was gonna get on Nasians' case for not recognizing the fact that this clearly is not La Droga. This would be chaos magic. But now that I think about it, I don't think Nasians ever run into anybody. Or at least whenever they run into someone with chaos magic, it's a lot more extreme than this. Because like notably, the only signs you're able to tell that this is a chaos magic Myrtle are signs that we know. We know the black skeleton and the white eyes are chaos incarnate. We know that as Chaos's calling card, essentially. Meanwhile, I don't think Nasians ever encountered it. Ordo was transformed into an actual monster by the use of the Chaos Staff, so Nasians doesn't have any frame reference there. I forget what Hauser's disciple's name was in his whole plot, but that also didn't involve any chaos magic, or at least not used on anybody, if it did involve chaos magic, unless I'm thinking of it incorrect. But I think the kid was using like the dragon's egg or something to control the dragon and wasn't actually using any chaos stuff. Then in the Elgin arc, all the knights are chaos knights, I mean they don't have to be controlled or anything. And then by the time we get to the Leonis arc, it's Chaos Melascula and Chaos Gallant, who Nasians isn't even there to witness the fight of, and see them genuinely crash out when Arthur begins to manipulate them. And even when they do crash out, they don't get the black skeleton and the white eyes. So I think this is legit Nasian's first encounter with chaos manipulation and chaos magic, which is interesting. Very, very interesting. I'll give credit for Nakama, because I would have straight up forgotten that character detail. But yeah, if Nasians has never seen it before, of course you wouldn't recognize it. And being a doctor and assuming everything has a logical and mostly replicable phenomena, he would try to go for the detoxify here. Which, good stuff. I gotta put respect on it. However, with that being the case, as Myrtle begins to, everywhere, Nasians mentions how that should cancel out both effects, and as Myrtle starts going, Tori's like, oh yeah, back to his usual wheezing, because he's not one of us. He's inferior, Nasians. Maybe we shouldn't help him. Maybe we should leave him to fall, Nasians. Honestly, you can be our new big sibling now. We don't need him, Nasians. In fact, Nasians, don't worry. I'll finish him myself. And then he just drops like a meteor on him. But with that being the case, we see that now Nasians is like, okay, since he assumed it was a la droga, not anything else, Nasians strolls up and is like, oh, it's all right. Another Mullen pill should quell that. Myrtle, do you have any pills left? Here's the thing, though. I did find the idea that he has Serenos still cool. I like the idea that's set up as a poison, meaning he can regenerate infinite Serenos. I get he can pop these buffs at any time, shape, and or way, and or form, but Nasians, bro. We have to put at least base you on Fraud Watch. But unless the Serenos faded in those 5 seconds between these two interactions, I want you to look at it. I need you to look at it! We see Nasians ask that question. And then Myrtle's like, oh, for real, for real? And boom! Hits the rotation, hits the reversal on my goat. No! No! Not my boy. And we see that Nasians says, Myrtle, please, stop! And we see that Myrtle, he ain't stopping no time soon. As he says, why was it someone like you? And we see, I'm sorry, it's the ellipses. It's the ellipses that, like, notably, if I were to, like, translate my speech to text, I think YouTube does that automatically, like, subtitles and stuff like that, which are auto-generated. But, like, there'd obviously be a lot of exclamation points or periods, maybe question marks at the end of my sentences. And maybe that sentence right there would have had an ellipses. Tiore, you are watching both of your older siblings battle, and one of them about to snap Nasian's arm. And all you can muster is a, stop. Tiore, if you don't knock that, like, I don't know. Once again, I'm still not sure how to feel about Tiore. I think out of all the kids, I think Myrtle's still number 1. Actually, no, 6 is maybe number 1, but that's pure bias for 6s. So, like, 6 is maybe number 1, Myrtle maybe number 2, and the only reason Tiore gets 3 is because she's still actually a character, unlike Belle, Zillion, Zana, and Pao, who are kind of just background dressing. So, I don't know. I still don't fully see the appeal of Tiore, but I've been seeing she's getting a lot more love in the community, which is good. Notably, it's fine to not like every single character, and it's fine for me to not like a character, but at the same time, bro, I don't know. I just find it funny. Like, really? Really? Stop. Wait. Don't do it. He only has 2 arms. What if you break the other one? Like, come on now. But the saddest thing is, this is Serenos amped Nasians, presumably, unless it faded. Once again, there's the possibility that the moment he used its effects to face tank everything that Myrtle had to offer him, then maybe Serenos immediately wore off. But presumably, this is Serenos amped Nasians who gets put. Oh, well, actually, you know what? I think by this, the Serenos may have worn off. Because he's sweating a lot and he's breathing heavy after exerting basically no effort. So maybe the Serenos wore off here. And I'm going to go with that to save my sanity. Because if you mean to tell me Serenos and Nasians got casually rotated like this and then had his arm cracked, I'd be so disappointed. Like, I don't want to put my boy on Fraud Watch. I love Nasians. If you couldn't tell, I really love Nasians. But dog, how do you not have a dub in overall? Well, he has a dub over Teniac. But how do you not have a solo dub, or at least like a duo dub, or not a cleanup, it's our dub kind of scenario in over 100 chapters, bro? We're in the 144s. This is your arc, buddy. And it's embarrassing. But with that being the case, we see Myrtle. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's pumping through my veins. And we see that Nasians realize not even the detox worked. That it's driven by magic or a curse. I'm hoping Nasians is able to relay this information to everybody else. Though presumably the Knights may have an idea, but then no, Malaska and Gallon, they just didn't have it. So yeah, I think informing the idea that any of them could have been taken over by chaos magic is an important thing that I hope Nasians gets to spread. But with that being the case, we see before Myrtle spreads Nasians, Tiore finally decides to intervene, I guess, as she says, Myrtle, enough of this. I'm finally going to use explanation points. I'm not going to stand for it. She raises her finger like she's really about to summon one of the creature tattoos. But what is she, ladies and gentlemen? A female character and a story written by Nakaba Suzuki. Now, I will give you a list of 3 options. Do you think she A, summons the spirit magic, the tattoo magic, and hits Myrtle away from Nasians? Do you think she B, summons the spirit magic and gets Nasians away from Myrtle. C, do you think that she, in her infinite wisdom, manages to ward off Myrtle and stop him from his aggressive acts? Or D, none of the above? If you pick D, of course you were right. With that being the case, we see Myrtle go to say, oh yeah, oh, I'm really feeling it. I still haven't even played Xenoblade. Why did I say? But with that being the case, Myrtle goes, oh yeah, next is that head. Is his head. But with that being the case, we see I was never going to be the case, 'cause the king is here with his beefy teddy bear. He will slam Myrtle through the ground. He does not want that smoke. He's not that guy, not like that. He will fall to the king. Look at that beastly bear. It would put Myrtle in repair. Yeah. King showed up, and he's smacking his mossy meat on the table as he says, you'll stop right there. Which is... something about this visual, bro. It's probably still my least favorite of all the second forms we've gotten, of all the Guardians. Like, probably even including... Well, actually, I don't remember. I completely forget what Dahlia's Guardian looked like. But, like, I even like the Wasp more than I like this multi-armed bear. But I will admit, it's slowly growing on me. It's slowly getting... I'm pretty sure I'm just going insane, but it's slowly getting there. Then my brain's like, actually, maybe this isn't really that bad or something. Like, I don't know. My brain, it's doing gymnastics to try to justify this bear. But with that being the case, the bear declares, you'll stop there. But we know it's not actually the bear, as it holds Myrtle, as Nasians lays there, and Tiori lowered her hand immediately. She's like, oh, no. No, I can't do anything. And by do anything, I mean stall and watch and use more ellipses. The king of the drip himself shows up with one finger pointing. He got that angle down. He got sights locked. He's like, what are you doing to my real child? You don't back it up, bucko. But we see that Nasians asks, a giant green bear? And we see Tiori go, ah! And even Myrtle turns and is like, I did not think this through. Oh, sweet mother of mercy. Father! Dad, how you doing, boss man? It'd be such a shame if someone were to harm that other guy. Dad, you ain't mad, right? It's just some sibling roughhousing. I was welcome into the family. Remember how me and Sixtus used to spar? Dad, please don't guardian me. But we see that it isn't just the big drip king. And I actually do like that his waistcoat ends up looking like a flower. That's a really neat little detail. Once again, I don't know. It's not too different from his end of series original series design, but I do really like this full wings king. I think he has my favorite time skip fit, even more than Meliodas, because Meliodas has that ugly behind tie. But with it being, and I also really like, it's a soft design change, like the arc downward to his wings and like the upper folds into the flat line. I think that actually is a really nice, simple, clean, buttery design. I actually like it a whole lot. But with that being the case, we see Diane yell, King! And we see King naturally ask, why did you, what the heck? Diane, why are you here with the kids? Yeah, like, what? But we see Diane argue, well, after the evil magic I felt, I thought it was only right to bring our kids towards the evil Why would you... Like, I get it if you sense the evil magic everywhere. Like, notably, I would fully understand it then, because, like, well, you want to keep them close so you can protect them. But why would you bring your kids towards the evil magic? Like, that's like hearing, like, an explosion go off in the distance, and instead of telling your kids to stay here where there aren't explosions happening, you, I guess, I don't know, as like a first responder, it's like, come on, kids, we need to go all the way. Run towards the explosions. I get the kids are strong, most likely. But at the same time, if they're strong, Diane should have left them. Not brought them along to experience this family trauma. But with that being the case, the kids, it's too late now. They're going to get traumatized one way or another. As they all look on and see Myrtle being restrained by their father. And we see that they question, Myrtle, is that Nasians on the ground? They are all shocked and bamboozled. And they see Nasians with his arms snapped, crackled, and popped all on the ground. Which is nice, though. I do like that over the 2-year time skip, even if we won't get much characterization with these other 5 kids, once again, 6 is probably the most we're going to get, and like slight hints of characterization from the previous chapter, or the chapter right before that. I forget the Tiori talking chapter with Diane where they were all eating lunch. But I'll admit, I do like that they do have some sort of care and bond. Like, they're genuinely questioning the scenario immediately for Nasian's sake. They aren't, like, looking into any benefit of the doubt. They see their dad holding back Myrtle, and they see Nasian's incapacitated on the ground, and they're like, oh. Like, they all know. And I don't think you can chalk this really up to, like, a switch-up thing, or like, oh, we now know that Nasians is our real big brother. Sibling, not brother.
Myrtle, you're worthless, G.
Like none of them hit that. So I do generally think this is just straight care that they developed over the past 2 years, which is nice. That's sweet. And we see that King declares, you went too far, Myrtle. That's not like you at all. And that is sweet. It goes to show how much King knows his kid. But we see the kid, boom, slaps away the bear. I want you to know, this makes Chaos Myrtle stronger than 4 Commandment Mael. I don't make the rules, I just make the scaling. Obviously, King's gotten stronger over the 18-year time skip. A freshly awakened Full Wings King with a teddy bear localized down to about 1/4 of its power with the 4 Spirit Spears being out, was able to bully and body bag 4 Commandment Mael. And thusly, by facts and logic, there's no way that 4 Commandment Mael could even stand against Myrtle, because Myrtle smacks away this one hand. I'm memeing. But let's see. We see that Myrtle, he hits a little grin, and he starts to talk.
What do you mean, not like me? Would you prefer I shut up and keep pandering to mommy and daddy instead?
And we see King and Diane genuinely shocked to see this side of their son. Obviously, even if they know and have known that that's not their real child, they raised Myrtle. If he really is speaking the truth here, even in the slightest 18 years, they've raised this boy since he was a baby. They're responsible for how Myrtle is now. So to hear their own son speak at them with such malice, such hatred, obviously it warrants a reaction like this. And we see that Myrtle keeps on pushing. He keeps going for it.
Or keep pretending to be all strong in front of my siblings.
And we see there's shock, there's confusion, there's terror. Even Tiori thinks it's important enough to whip out an exclamation point. Myrtle! And we see, unfortunately, Myrtle, he's consumed by one thing. Well, technically 2. Fear and despair. As he breaks down into tears.
Will be racked with anxiety, only to be told I was a changeling all along, and to be forced to live in fear of being kicked out of this world for good.
He's genuinely breaking down. He's legit snotting too. He's in shambles over this. And once again, while I do think this could have all been fixed with one discussion, I think it makes sense because King and Diane did not have that discussion. And naturally, in this time period, with a lack of information and just natural childhood fear, why wouldn't the kid who's long since known and long since questioned whether or not he was real or fake, why would he not think he was going to be replaced by the real one? That had finally shown up, right out of the blue, perfectly timed, to be the real eldest child of the Fairy King and Giant Queen. To be the real one to inherit the legacy. To be the real one to last and lead. And throw away the human that dared to think it was going to be important enough to have that title when it was going to die by the very realm it existed. And then 100 years, give or take, you'd be gone. So, like, I can definitely understand Myrtle's terror here. That sort of existential dread has to be genuinely horrifying. And especially when being amplified by chaos magic, you can see that this is genuinely breaking through. And we see Diane even try to apologize and go, "I'm sorry. I had no idea you were in so much pain." Which, once again, I was going to clown on Diane and King for this, but I do think it makes sense in the context of both of their characters. Not only is it the fact that they are literally ancient creatures. Like, realize, I believe, let me double check Diane's age. Maybe I'm tweaking, but at least I know King. Diane, Seven Deadly Sins age. I'm pretty sure she's like 750 years old. She's shockingly young. That's why, but then again, I think like Nakaba described, she's like also a 16-year-old. So I don't know. Nakaba's weird. I'll admit, Nakaba's just weird. Let's see, how old is King, at least? He's only 13 years, well, I guess 1300 is still old. But like, that's the thing. Well, they're very, very old. And very little time has passed relative to them. So, one, there's that. So despite Myrtle being a fully conscious, fully grown adult human being, they likely didn't even consider the fact that he's any older like 2 months in their time span. And also, this is their first time parenting. And it went in the hardest, most diabolical and diverse way possible. Where, ultimately, they had a child that was stolen from them. And then had to raise this new one. Not of their own free will, but of the goodness of their hearts. So, not only is this mistake reasonable for them to make, but I think it does make sense considering how complex the situation is. And once again, telling kids that they're adopted isn't necessarily an easy process. In regular, modern life, where adoption is a much more normalized process, not to talk of in this time period, for a royal family of 2 entire species. This isn't no small deal here. Of course Myrtle would have fear that he's just going to get replaced. Because he's not even the species. It's not like this is some random fairy or some random giant that got swapped out. No, this is a human who once again will perish, if not even given Mullen pills, or will perish in a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of his family's lifespan. They'll be burying Myrtle before any of them even turn 100. And once again, Diane, 750 years old, and she looks great in terms of like age. Meaning she's probably got many more years left in her. And apparently, relatively speaking, if you just multiply what Nakaba says she supposedly is, give that the human lifespan multiply, she's not going to perish. Like, she's like 5,000. So, maybe older, maybe 6,000. So, yeah. I can definitely understand that fear. I can 100% get it. However, we see that not everything is as it seems. As both King and Sixtus both know something strange. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. I don't want any of this. I don't want to sadden you two. Which once again goes to show that internal conflict. And I do love that. I do love the idea that Myrtle knows he's loved. He knows he's deeply cared for. It's just the insecurities. It's the fear. It's that temporary lapse in judgment. That one mistake of trusting and giving into something he shouldn't have trusted. Something dark. Something chaotic that led to him not even having control over his own body. And we see a certain voice, steeped in darkness in his head, says,
"What are you doing? Keep it up. Keep tearing them limb from limb. Slaughter the royal family for what they have done to you."
Kilbagon does not say all that. But we see that King, he clicks his fingers. And suddenly Myrtle, he's gripped up! He's locked in the grippers. Well, as we know, this isn't really Myrtle. And we see that naturally the kids are like, whoa, 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 Pops! This is still Big Brother. He's still Big Brother. What are you doing? And they all yell, "Dad! What are you going to do with Myrtle?" And we see that King says, "I'm going to do this. Look away, children. You'll only have one true older sibling." Bang, bang! And then he fuels up the Guardian to slam Myrtle to pieces, to oblivion as he squirms and writhes. But actually, no. Deep in the shadow, deep in the darkness, King slams and swings for her. However, they do manage to escape. They all manage to dodge the wrath of the King.
and they escape free and unbound from the shade of darkness. And we see that everyone is shocked, everyone's bamboozled, except for the fairies, or at least the ones who inherited more fairy blood. Even Belt looks a little bit more aware. Meanwhile, Diane is generally bamboozled. Pal looks generally bamboozled. Belt is kind of chilling. Tori looks generally bamboozled, which is funny because she's clearly more fairy than giant. And even Sixes is like, I've seen this coming, but who are they? And Zana and Zillion look on in genuine shock as we see King say, so you're the ones controlling Myrtle, right? Lurking in my son's shadow, trying to intrude on our realm. No wonder our spirit spear allowed you to get in. But you'd be best prepared to pay a suitable price. Unauthorized entry into the fairy realm, and most of all, what you've done to my precious son. You've committed crimes that will never be forgiven.
Yes! Yes, King! Tear them limb from... Whoa. Sorry. Lost myself for a second there. Yes, King. Tear them limb from limb. Piece to piece. Cell to cell. Atom to atom. Split their quarks if you have to, King. Get your get back, my G. Quark them up! But this is, once again, where it is a bit unfortunate. Well, I do like that Myrtle does have these genuine feelings deep in his heart, and that they're able to be perceived. I'm still not the biggest fan of Myrtle just genuinely being confirmed. Well, not, see, that's the thing. King says control, and clearly these feelings have some sort of depth to them. That's why we had the whole talk about the implication of these hypothetical lower impulses, possibly born of chaos. But with the controlling and Kil'jaegon's commands to keep moving forward, and obviously the obvious callbacks to Galna Malaskula, who once they start to achieve free will and kind of fight back, the chaos magic in them immediately kicked back on. It was like, do what I say, you fools. And then they had to do what the magic said. I do kind of wish it was just, like, real. I do just wish Myrtle felt this way for real, and was, like, just being spurred on and not being directly controlled. I still think you can have sort of that angle, but the whole controlling aspect and the orders and stuff like that is kind of unfortunate. And once again, while I'm fine with what this means for Arthur and his character and turning him malicious, and I do need to talk about that, but it makes Kil'jaegon way less sincere, which I guess makes sense, right? He's a villain, but I was hoping Kil'jaegon would have some nuance. Like, he was genuinely, actually remotely interested in helping Myrtle with his goals and ambitions. But clearly, he just wanted to use Myrtle as a pawn, which is unfortunate. You gotta simplify the villains down, but still. And we see Kil'jaegon and his crew of hooded figures. Once again, we don't know who these are, but this crew of hidden figures. And we see that Nasians immediately recognizes, that staff! Are those assassins sent by Camelot? Or those are assassins sent by Camelot? And we see that Tiori says, you have to keep still. Your right arm's completely broken. Nasians, I'm not gonna lie, big bro. Big sibling. You're looking quite
fraudulent.
But, of course, we see that someone heard, broken arm? Nasians? My goat? Wait a minute. As we see Nasians say, but we've got to save him. And that goes to show that the influence of Kil'jaegon is affecting Myrtle beyond just being in his shadow. But also, Tiori looks up and notices what Nasians doesn't. As Nasians knows Myrtle and says, but we've got to save him. I can't just let myself stay here.
A certain spirit pops up.
Like, you know, right? So, Percy. It may just be the return of the death. For as we know him, or at least a piece of him. Once again, if Percy comes back this soon, I'd be fine with it. But I actually wouldn't mind if this was just like a piece of Percy. And it healed Nasians, and then it dipped out. Showing that there's hope. Showing that Percy, Nasians did manage to reach him through that spirit calling stuff that he was doing with King earlier. But ultimately, Percy, it's going to take more to get him resurrected. It's going to take more for him to come back. I still would like to see all the other knights and their current predicaments without Percy and how they feel about Percy leaving them before we got to see, you know, Percy's actual return. So I'm excited for Percy coming back, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'm not too sure. The one thing I do want to mention real quick, though, I won't go too in depth because I mentioned this in videos before and I may make another video talking about it. The one thing I'm worried about this whole using chaos magic to control people and manipulate and possibly amplify latent feelings. I'm slightly scared that we're going to use this as an out for Arthur. That it's going to be revealed that, oh, you see, Arthur, well, he wasn't actually evil. It was just the chaos juice inside of him that made him appear evil. And that was just amplifying his lingering and weak regrets and possible despise for the other races. But actually, no, Arthur's still a sweet boyo. He would never, ever hurt the other races that badly. It was all just chaos controlling him from the inside. I'm really hoping that's not the excuse that they use. I just want Arthur to be evil. They still have to justify that evil a bit more. But just make Arthur evil. Come on, Nasians. Not Nasians. Come on, Nakaba. Have the nerve. Have the nerve. But other than that, you know, this is a W chapter. Even with my conflict of interest with certain things, such as the mind control, I'm still perfectly fine with the implication of this chapter. Clearly the character conflict gets across. Clearly the character conflict is being addressed by the rest of the family that aren't under mind control. Clearly this is an issue that will have to be talked about well after this conflict is over, and the reassurance of Myrtle and the recovery of Myrtle is definitely going to be an interesting plot point. And obviously with Percy returning here at the end, or at least a aspect or manifestation of Percy, things are about to get devious in the best way possible. So I'm very excited. But I think this is a W chapter. What do you guys think? Please let me know in the comment section down below. I did thank you so much for watching. Please do leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that little notification bell so you know myself on every video second of the channel. Also, I do happen to have a Patreon below where you can support me. Shank, you know what time it is. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Horn Gang. Horn Gang. Horn, as in like Serenos horn. Gang, as in Gang. In the comment section down below. But now, the thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do happen to have a page down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the 30-minute live reaction to this very chapter. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: O'Connor Plays, Greyhound, Akids Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, Teen Midgao, Querencia Tala, and Red Wolf 4765. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Steron, Sean, Panda Goat, Midnight Lord 21, Marcus, Kevin, Igneal, and Ehak1. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $7 members: Autumn's Mornings Lazo and Sick Addiction. And I'd like to give a hefty thank you to our $10 member, Banana Phone. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 patrons, Joaquin, Jermaine, and Idemokami. And I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, China Doll 09. And another gargantuan, juicy, scrumdiddlyumptious thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.